It's pretty easy to say that there are a lot of categories that society likes to put us into, especially when it comes to gender and gendered behavior. It is also equally as easy to stay within them, and if you don't, well, there's always going to be a judgmental eye to death glare you back into place. As somebody who is both Japanese Canadian and very, very white, I'm frequently reminded that existing between two categories is something that, if not confuses people, makes them very uncomfortable. If I had a dime for every time somebody asked me, "What are you anyways?" or told me that I'm basically white, I wouldn't have a single penny of student debt. But when you don't fit into any sort of clear-cut space, there's always going to be some kind of product that can fix you, whether it be a diet, a lipstick, a soap, a skin bleaching cream, or the right color of clothes to make you look a particular shape. Because it's our responsibility, particularly as those who are female identified or perceived that way, it's our burden to package our bodies in a way that society deems acceptable. So for those of us who maybe toe the lines just a little bit too far, who maybe bend and break the rules of sexuality, gender rules, gender presentation, ability, body type, class, and race, there's this whole big wide open space for us to exist in, but it is very difficult, especially on campus, to find that despite the infinite possibilities, very little space is safe. So let's just start thinking about why this campus, by extension our world, needs feminism, particularly because so many people have become adamantly anti-feminist because you already have the vote. What more could you want? Because trans men and women and non-binary folk face shocking and disgraceful levels of both sexual and physical violence, not to mention systematic exclusion, humiliation, and media ridicule. Because this campus has yet to recognize how scary and dangerous a place as simple as a bathroom can be for trans individuals. And can anyone please let me know if they've ever heard of a Canadian university that wasn't named after an old white dude? If you go into our convocation hall, all you're gonna see is portraits of old white dudes. I mean, we've had one woman of color as an MSU president, and like Siobhan Stewart has said when she was elected, that shouldn't be a big deal. But it is. The Women's Studies department at this university is shrinking and fast. At the undergraduate level, you can no longer major in women's studies because there aren't even enough courses to take to do so. Don't forget hanging out in the student center, where I regularly hear words like gay and faggot and retarded thrown around like petty insults with no consequence. But when you call somebody out on this action, they didn't mean it like that, and yet somehow it's always assumed that I'm straight. And of course, the classical assumption that women who are female assigned at birth are going to get married and pop out millions of children, and yet we are so often denied access to adequate information on our own reproductive health. Thank God for the Sexual Health Education Center and the Wellness Center, if you can get in there. And if you're anything but the gender that you are assigned at birth, the society gives you a whole lot of tough luck when it comes to the medicine and bureaucratic hoops that you're made to jump through. Speaking of not being able to get in at the Student Wellness Center, those with eating disorders or other urgent mental health needs, especially after sexual violence, often cannot have their needs met by the number of staff that we have here. McMaster needs feminism because after we graduate with the same degrees, men will still make more money for every dollar that a woman earns. And although the average is 77% of what men earn, individuals who are Indigenous, Black, Middle Eastern, South Asian, and Latina make considerably less than that average. Then again, research has shown that even a name that doesn't sound white on a resume can affect you even getting an interview in the first place. It can be a tricky battle to stay proud of who you are when it would be so much easier to get hired if you were named Jane Smith instead. Plus, women in engineering and computer science, as well as other non-traditional female fields, are still considered special minorities despite their growing numbers. And again, people still don't take them seriously. And if a woman does make it to the top in one of these fields, or any field for that matter, it's because she has male characteristics. Our behavior that is strong and bold is deemed pushy, bossy, controlling, or bitchy. We need feminism because we are expected to be compliant and expected to be white and able-bodied with no need of accommodation and straight, but not too straight because girls making out is hot, and skinny, but not too skinny, ew, and smart, but not too smart, heaven forbid we think, and if we're depressed or anxious, well, we're just too stigmatized to even be able to talk about it. Most of all, we certainly cannot be funny. Because only men are funny, remember that. To stand up for women's equality, you can't shave your legs or wear anything but hemp, and remember, there are so many people that believe that wearing a hijab means that you cannot be a feminist. Most of all, these identities overlap and intersect and create diverse experiences and combined oppressions that cannot be contained in any sort of box or stereotype. We need feminism because we need feminism itself to be better. And a school of thought that has such a history of exclusion to those outside of that upper middle class, straight, white, female assigned at birth woman kind of thing, with access to some education box, we need equity for those who do not have access to that kind of privilege. Because we want to live freely and openly and express ourselves, express our passion, our genders, our sexuality, our heritage, ethnicity, and race, our economic backgrounds, our bodies, and our all levels of ability, and heaven forbid our voices. We need a place for our voices to be heard. And that's why feminism is important at McMaster.